Hello.
Hey.
I think I'll give a minute for people to show up and then we can get started. Okay, welcome everyone. So I'm facilitating. Hi, I'm Caroline. I tend to kind of lurk in these meetings, but today I'm facilitating. I'm from IBM, so good to see you all. Next is, if anyone's new, feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Namita, and this is my first time attending this meeting. I've been part of like the best practice. I've been attending the best practices working group, and yeah, this is my first time here, and I look forward to see where this goes. I'm just trying to understand how this works for now.
Awesome, welcome.
Hey,
Anybody
this is
else?
Mike. It's my first time attending this meeting too. Just learning and observing. I'm new to the community.
Great, welcome. And you should all get on the doc and mark yourself as an attendee as well if you'd like. There should be a link to the doc in the Slack channel, or just ask us and I'm sure we can give you the link in the chat. Great, anyone else? Okay. So I think
I just
next,
asked for access.
sure. What was that?
Namita, access to the document.
Oh, access. I think one of the maintainers should be able to give you access. I don't think I have.
Actually, you should join a Google group. It's pinned to the Slack channel. If you join the Google group, you should be able to have access to the doc.
Oh,
And I've also put that in the Zoom chat.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. So I think next is to go over the agenda, but it looks like there's nothing here. So I think it's open mic if anyone just has anything they want to talk about today.
I can go first and I can provide a general update on what we've been doing at Step Security. So for context, Step Security is an open core startup, and our focus is on providing remediations for scorecard checks. And currently we offer 4 remediations. So the idea is that we want open source communities and developers to basically improve their scorecard score with ease through automation. And so on that front, last week we met with Node.js security working group, and as you may know, they are right now, like in the process of enabling scorecard across their repositories, and we discussed, like how they can actually enable scorecard and how they can improve their score using automation. And the plan is to actually, like going forward, select some of the repositories and then try out these scenarios. The other thing is we are also looking at, like new automation scenarios for scorecard. So we went through the existing issues. And sorry, and we saw that there are discussions around SBOM and OIDC. And I believe those have not been added as new checks in Scorecard. But this is something that we are also interested in exploring as to how we can automatically enable these features on behalf of the developer. And one thing that we plan to do in the near future is we will be adding a remediation step for code owners file, which I believe is required for the branch protection test, because for branch protection you need elevated access. But depending upon the repository and who has contributed in a given folder, we are planning to introduce a remediation to automatically create code owner files. And yeah, would love to get any feedback you may have, or anything in particular we should be focusing on. I just wanted to provide a general update to the community.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you're saying the code owners file. I'm sure asking this question because I'm trying to understand. Just because I've done about 10 commit, what is your parameters to pick somebody as a code owner? Do you have parameterized? Like, I could just be contributing, wouldn't want to become a committer or any of that. Have you thought of that, especially when you generalize? And different organizations have different size to say, hey, do I have commit access? Like, there are many more things that go into it. Have you thought of that? If you have,
that's a great question, and we are very early into our design. But the idea is that we want to provide an easy to use interface. And one thing we could do is we could take a look at the repository and then figure out who's actually approving these PRs or who's creating these commits, and sort of like provide an easy way to project maintainers to select like the list of users who should be part of a code owner's file. And I agree with you, like different organizations and different open source communities have different requirements, and that is something that we need to figure out. But once we have like more concrete details on the implementation, I would love to come back and get more feedback. But we are very early right now in the discussion as to how these features should be implemented.
the cool idea. Just had a few questions. That's it.
No, I appreciate it.
Great. Thanks for letting us know what you've been up to. Okay. So I think we can move on if there's no other thoughts on that one. Looks like there's now a project update. Scorecard V4.10.4 is released.
Yeah, just a quick shout out to Naveen for fixing the go release direction. And there's a new scorecard release, and that we should probably do an action release as well so that people can use the new scorecard.
The reason I don't bump the scorecard action immediately is the same reason things break. We just want to wait at least 2-3 weeks for people to start consuming, and then probably it could week. On that note, Spencer, we can probably release it to a main branch and test the main branch and scorecard, at least as a beta before we. Because if you don't release the action, it should not be a problem.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, okay. Just bump up that in the action, but don't release the action for at least so that we can use the main to test, just to make sure things go well.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. There was one change that sort of increased API usage, so it might be worth getting another patch update for Scorecard, and then can bump it for the action and let the end-to-end test go.
So if you want to, you can tag that if you've already merged it.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thanks.
Okay, great. I think that was the last bullet. So if anyone else wants to speak, feel free.
If we do have the time, I thought I'd just mention Naveen and I attended the Southern California Linux Expo a couple of weeks ago, giving a talk about scorecards. It was received pretty positively. We had people stopping by after the talk wanting to discuss it further. There's some connections that I think will be good to have. We'll be kind of trying to invite more people to the meeting. Different OSPOs were interested, and we got a chance to just talk with maintainers more directly. So basically a talk we will plan to do again. We'll be having a similar talk at RSA next month. But Naveen, if you wanted to add anything too, that was just a very high level kind of overview.
Absolutely. There's one other thing that I want to add is this is not a very large vendor-driven conference. For that, we had probably about 35 people in the room, 30 to 35 people, which was good for not a very large conference. At that too, this was at 5 p.m. For 5 p.m. On a Saturday evening, we had about 35 people, that was one thing that I wanted to add. I was surprised, to be honest, on that front.
That's great.
I had one item I was going to bring up. I apologize. I showed a little late. With the work that's been happening on GitLab support, when is an appropriate time to try to bring GitLab into this discussion? Be it either because you want to have, a token with a higher rate limit on it, or because we want to engage about getting them to maybe include Scorecard as some of their default CI templates. I'm happy to try to push that to happen. I just don't want to jump the gun before maybe folks feel it's at that point to start that discussion. I think it's always good to prime the discussion so they know that's happening, and then maybe they're interested in jumping into and helping. But I wanted to see what you as maintainers feel is appropriate.
So I can speak to that. So we are starting off with like a small list of GitLab repos and like starting to analyze that, similar to what we did with GitHub and having this available on deps.dev. I know there is a parallel discussion happening between GitLab and OpenSSF about getting a API token, which is not something I'm directly involved in. But yeah, that might be a pretty helpful thing to get from GitLab to kind of scale this up. Yeah, I mean, I think the TLDR here is that we have a few checks that kind of map one-to-one parity with respect to GitHub, and that those will be the checks we are going to start out with, and that should be available on deps.dev soon. But there might be checks that we don't have parity on. For example, we saw that there are some features not available on GitLab GraphQL, right? Like things that are not allowing us to make the request that we would have made on GitHub, like an equivalent request. So these might be some things that as we kind of come across them, we can probably work with somebody on GitLab side and like figure out if there's any extra support that we can get from GitLab. So yeah, that's the short update I have there.
Yeah, I know some of the folks that I work with who aren't here, but like Keith Ganger and Jim Robeson, who's attended in the past, will be helping implement some of those additional checks. I think now that kind of like the baseline work is in, they'll be jumping on some of those to help out. And then, from my perspective, I'm pushing hard for GitLab support, mainly because that's where my company predominantly works. So I will probably make some inroads over there to try to get them to start showing up to this meeting. And then also, if you have someone who's already working the token access, that's great. Otherwise, I'm happy to bring that up in my discussions over there with their leadership.
Yeah, I think with respect to tokens, I would say like the more hands we have on the deck, that definitely helps, because yeah, I don't think there's any official way for us to ask for a higher rate limit. So yeah, the more people we have asking for it, that definitely helps. With respect to like the implementation and getting the support fully up and running, I would recommend talking to Raghav Kaul, who's one of the maintainers. So he'll be implementing some of these checks and making sure the framework and like the basic support is running, and yeah, like if there are specific checks on GitLab that we aren't supporting in our v0, and that you would want to see support for, I think we should have like deeper discussions there.
Yeah, we've been talking to the Raghav on and off for a while now. So yeah, I think we're in sync there. But yeah, good to bring that up.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you. Good questions. Anyone else have anything? All right, then I guess this is a short meeting then. That's it. Cool.
Do we want to pick a facilitator for next time? Quick.
Yes, great idea. Would anyone else like to facilitate for next time? That would be April 6th, 2 weeks from now, same time, 4 p.m. Eastern.
I can volunteer. This is Brian Russell.
Okay, great.
Unless anyone else wants it, I'm happy to.
That's it. Or I can, Brian.
Okay,
Looks like
maybe
I'm
we
free
can
now.
queue us both up, Jeremy. We could.
Yeah.
There's nothing saying we have to just do one in advance.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome, thank you. Cool. I think that's all we have for today. So thanks everyone for joining.
See you folks.
Thanks for
Mm-hmm.
moderating, Caroline.
Thank you.
Yep, no
Thanks.
problem. Bye.